Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob?
I mean, it's something you might be like,
continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's so sensitive.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really. Right? We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Savatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome back to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast. Today I have a very, very special guest for you. But before I dive in to this special guest and what she means to me, I just wanted to thank you for being here and sticking along with me through this podcast journey and learning as I go and trying to get better each time. And I know this conversation with Karen is literally the reason I created this podcast. Was because the conversations I have had with this woman throughout the time that I have worked with her have been so incredibly healing, so impactful, the aha moments that this woman has had. And I was like, there's so much that people can learn from just hearing other people's stories and to witness when someone else connects the dots and when something resonates, to be able to experience that by hearing them or by seeing them. I just think it's so powerful, and working with this woman is such a joy, because when this woman connects dots and has aha moments, it's the whole energy changes. There's like a total shift where it's just, whoa, that's her thing. Whoa. And so on that note, I am so excited and so honored to welcome Miss Karen to the podcast and to really welcome her as kind of like the first person that I have worked with and being able to go through this journey. And I want, your story needs to be out there, and it has a ability to impact so many people, and to have witnessed your healing journey even before I met you was incredible. The work that you have done. But to look back on since I have met you, it's incredible to see the growth that you have had and the healing that you have had, and to see it really all almost kind of like paying off just recently with some big exciting news that you got. So kick us off by sharing that, and then we'll go way back. But start us there. Tell us about your exciting news, Karen.
So you're talking about work. Something else. We'll get, but
all right, we're back. We've had a little Zoom technology glitches and things, but we are going to make it work. That's what we do here. So bear with us. But anyway, what I was asking was for Karen to share some big, amazing news that she got, because it absolutely applies to the work that she's been doing to heal her inner child, to feel worthy of cool, amazing things coming her way. So share with us what just happened.
Okay, so I know you're talking about work, which I'm excited about.
Yeah.
But I actually want to back up and talk about the things that have been going on with my church. So you know this, but one of the biggest blessings I've had in the last few months is an opportunity to step into some service work at church and bring my leadership to my faith community and consider that a spiritual gift, which I had never thought of before. And bringing my whole self into my faith community and showing up and being of service and really showing up in a big way. Little Karen likes being out in front. And that has been an incredible, incredible blessing that is still coming to fruition. So I just had a new job opportunity completely fall out of the sky last week. It is a promotion where I work now. And it's kind of a big deal because I have had the blessing of a long career. I started when I was 5 years old. I've now been working for my current firm for almost 30 years.
Whoa.
And I've had the blessing of a really great career, but I felt like I had stalled out a little bit about 4 years ago, right before COVID. And little Karen is now going to be front and center. I'm really embracing the limits of what I can do, and I'm stretching myself in a different way. And I don't know that I would have been prepared for that a couple of years ago. In fact, I know I wouldn't have, maybe not even a year ago. So the universe God is bringing these things into my life right now because of the work that we've done.
Oh, I have so like full body goosebumps right now because you're right. Years ago, like little Karen might not have felt worthy of those things. Or again, your protective parts trying to keep you playing small in this comfortable position that wasn't fueling your soul, that wasn't lighting you up, where you weren't really operating your gifts. Like, yeah, you're good at your job and doing the things, but it gets to a point where sometimes your soul is just like craving more because you know you're capable of more. And what you are experiencing now is, I feel like, the little gift for doing this work. Like, yes, like when you heal, when you start believing in yourself, it like starts to roll out the red carpet for you. And so it was just such incredible timing that happened, because that was kind of one of your goals coming into, working more closely together was, I'm feeling stuck in this. And yeah, and there were times throughout like, okay, Tami, I haven't had this like amazing career change yet. Like, why isn't this working? But you were patient. You stayed the course, did the work, and have continued to do the work and continued to explore. And so it's so cool. And I think people need to know that. They need to hear stories like that, because how many times throughout this healing journey did you and I both want to throw our hands up and be like, I can't, I'm done. This is too hard. I'm sabotaging myself again. And if you don't have total faith that there is something greater on the other side, you won't keep going. And so your faith has absolutely been an anchor for you in this journey. And that kind of is like a perfect segue to how you found me. So I would love for you to share that story with everybody, because it's so cool and I'll never forget it.
It started with way back in August, September of 22. I had been on a girls' trip and I had done a lot of walking. And at the end of that weekend, I stepped off a curb and I felt something go horribly wrong in my foot. And it was pain like I had never experienced before. And I knew it was because I had been walking. I wasn't hiking. I was actually in New York City. So I was just walking the city for a few days, and I was much more active than I normally am. And that pain shot through me physically like nothing I've experienced before, including childbirth. And I hobbled my way back to the hotel by myself, sent my girlfriends on their way, and actually hobbled back home, took an early flight, came home by myself. That was a very demoralizing, humbling experience. My shame was off the charts. I probably should have taken a wheelchair at the airport because I was in that much pain, but I refused to do it because I'm prideful. So long story short, I come home and I'm wearing this banner of shame. And I get on the internet and I'm scrolling through Facebook like I do all the time. And I wind up stumbling upon a Facebook post from someone in a community that's focused on healthy living. And this woman was writing and describing how I felt hopelessness, just fed up with herself, done. She was describing how I felt about myself. The miracle is, when I saw it. 2, I actually read it. And 3, it wasn't what she wrote that was the miracle. The miracle was someone that you know had posted something as a response that said, if you're serious about making some changes, reach out to me. And I immediately thought, okay. And without hesitation, my intuition had me reach out to her completely out of the blue and say, what are you talking about? And long story short, within less than a week, I was on the phone with you. I think it was actually like 3 or 4 days. I was on the phone with you And I knew immediately from the very first conversation that you were put in my path for a reason. I choose to call it a God thing. All of that happened for a reason.
Yeah. And I love that story so much. And it's so important for people to hear that because, again, there are signs and synchronicities all around us. And again, when you're on this healing journey, which many of us don't even know we're on, once you realize it, you have to lean into those things and trust those things and know that you're being supported. But you were just following your intuition and not second guessing it, not getting in the way. And that, what you just described, is what following your intuition looks like. I just happened to get on Facebook. I just happened to see this post. I just happened to reach out without thinking. Next thing I know, what I have been asking for help is literally on the other end of this phone call. Like, that's how cool like God works, of just like, oh, hey, you want this thing and you need help? Let me show you the way. Unless you get in your own way and you start questioning things and doubting things and like, oh, I don't even know who this lady is, or I don't, so that was a huge shift for you to take that leap. And just like with this cool, job opportunity and stuff, even in just that moment, that was another way that it's like this was being presented to you. Like, okay, here's your opportunity to change. How many people go through a situation like you experienced in New York and just go back to life as normal? Like, that was a wake-up call for you. And sometimes it takes something physical to help us wake up to the emotional, the soulful, the what's really there. Sometimes it's the physical stuff, the injuries, the illnesses are the only way that your inner child and your body can get your attention. And you listened. And that was the wake-up call that you needed to be like, no more. And so what was so cool about one of our first conversations was, one, you were open. Like, you didn't know who I was. And what I love so much about your story is the work that you had done leading up to even meeting me. Like, whoa. And yet still open, because I see so many people who are like, oh, I don't need therapy, or, oh, I don't need to talk to someone, or, oh, like, you were like, I'm in this to improve myself and to heal all these things. Like, you had done so many things, but you were still open to, what is this inner child stuff? And it wasn't even about that at that point. This is such an interesting point. So a little background is that when you first reached out to me, I was at that point running the program called Fiercely Focused. And I talked about that in like episode 1. It was like 6-week kind of nutrition and body kindness program. Loved it. You rocked it. And, we were starting to get to some of the underlying issues in that, like just an awareness that, hey guys, this isn't just about food. How are we treating our body? How are we talking about our body? And so it was starting to get to some of that stuff. But gosh, were you like around 17?
That sounds right. I don't know, but that
Something
sounds
like
right.
that. Yeah. And I think I ran it one more time. And that was when I was like, I gotta sit with this. Like, something about it was starting like, oh wait, like we're not getting to, like, there's more work to do. There's more stuff here. And that sent me on this quest. And so then I started diving into inner child work and finding that for myself, but really it was to help people in Fiercely Focused. I'm like, I gotta help them not fall back into these old patterns and habits, because I had this realization that, like, oh my God, Tami, like, you created a Band-Aid. You created a really awesome, helpful 6-week Band-Aid. And I couldn't sit with that. Like, I loved that program so much. I mean, I ran it 2 years in a row, straight, and 18 rounds. And I got to meet women like you. It was incredible. And I will never, ever like look back at that with any negative energy at all. It was my emotional anchor, and because it was ability to like pour energy into people. But when I had that epiphany of, oh, if I'm not helping them heal these underlying issues, which at that point I didn't even really know what they were, I just knew there was something, then I'm just handing out Band-Aids. I'm like, I can't do that. And so I had to put like a hard stop to it.
Last night, I briefly glimpsed through the workbook that we did in my notes from Fiercely Focused. And in fact, I think I lost something crazy like 19 pounds in 6 weeks. I've put all that back on. I am physically not happy in my physical self. Um, because I don't feel good. I don't feel healthy. But I now feel ready.
You know what I love about that so much? And this is like if I could star and glitter and highlight this episode and what you just said is I'm worthy no matter what. I'm worthy of taking up this space and showing up and sharing my story and speaking my truth no matter what. No matter what my weight is, no matter what my job title is, no matter how I look today, like I am worthy. And oh, when you said that, I seriously, my whole body was just like, because your inner child, she just felt so loved, like unconditionally loved in that moment. That is what this is all about. That is what this is all about, is how can I unconditionally love myself, my inner child, to show up no matter what? Because that is a huge part of this and I talked about this on I don't know if it was episode 2 or whatever it was. Hopefully you guys remember, about how our inner child will actually sabotage our efforts, especially when it comes to weight loss. She's like, you haven't healed this wound yet. You don't feel worthy of this wound yet. And that's why, even though you lost 20 pounds and 19 some inches in Fiercely Focused, you hadn't healed the wound. So you had to learn the lesson again. But you're not going to learn it again this time because you did the work. And that is so important. And the fact that you gave yourself time. You gave yourself this time to heal. And, certainly we had moments of, you have to ride the wave in this healing journey. But what was so great about having that one-on-one time with you is every time that you felt like there was a setback or you fell into old habits and behaviors, we were always able to link it to something and why. Like something that you were feeling triggered by. But it seemed to always kind of come back to when the outside world was just consuming and you're taking on everyone else's stuff, whether it's work or family stuff, and we disconnect from ourselves. We start to abandon ourselves. That's when your inner child is like, oh, hell no. And she would get triggered. Your part swooped in and said, like, we don't want to feel that. So we'll eat, we'll do this, we'll do that. And sometimes like you had to go through that cycle to understand like what's going on. It's like, oh, so every time I neglect my own needs, my inner child gets triggered. And then my parts swoop in and send me down this spiral of self-sabotage, when really if I just would have tended to my needs and took care of my inner child this whole time. But that's a process, right? And knowing that, again, you're worthy of this time. And that is the biggest takeaway, because in this time in our lives, we all want quick results, right? And even in the 6 weeks, people had incredible results in that program, no doubt. But to think like that we're just going to magically heal that stuff in 6 weeks, and that's where sometimes people aren't always open to going on journeys like this, because it's like, oh, well, how long is it going to take? However long it needs to freaking take. These wounds have been there your entire life. Do you think your inner child is worthy of, a few months of dedicated attention to heal those wounds? Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about little Karen. Share a little bit about, because I freaking love little Karen. Little Karen is like my spirit inner child, because she's just spunky and fun. And I think of the pictures that you would send me. So tell us about little Karen, but then also how parts of her, maybe needed to be put in a box or were suppressed, or the way that your parts kind of protected her by being the overachiever, the perfectionist, and those types of things.
Little Karen's a little badass.
She is. She's feisty.
In a great way. She's
totally
sassy.
Great way.
She's sassy. She does not mind being out in front, and is funny and sweet, but at the same time, not too terribly concerned with making other people happy or telling them what they want to hear. Side note, after almost 30 years in my career, I'm at a point where I'm valued for being the one to speak up in the room, and I pride myself on it. Side note. Yeah, little Karen is happy and joyful, and full of energy and fire and joy. There are people that are going to hear this and think, oh my Lord, what is this woman talking about? I don't care. I'm going to tell you anyway. I wound up naming intuitively a couple of my parts so that I had forgotten about Betty.
Yeah, I did too,
Betty
actually.
I had forgotten about Betty until I look at Fiercely Focused. I mean, I knew about this aspect of myself, but I forgot I put a name on her. She's a perfectionist. There's that part of me that has to deliver, has to achieve. And I've known this intellectually for many years. I've done a lot of healing work around this. It would have told you I've come far, and I had, but there was another layer I needed to get through that I worked through with Tami. But from a very young age, defined myself by my achievements, by my straight A's, by being the teacher's pet, by dancing and dancing really well. And that aspect of myself has no room for anything less than perfection. So the shame that comes with that is intense.
Yeah.
Coupled with enough spiritual maturity and enough healing to know that that's messed up, and the insanity of being able to see that, but still not quite get it to go away, no matter how much I try to turn it over, it's still there. The more interesting aspect to myself you and I uncovered was someone I called Sadie, who, with the best intentions in the world, Sadie was like, or is like, a big sister who just wants me to feel better. Yeah. So, you had a rough day. It's okay. You should go get a cookie. Yeah. You should go relax. You had a fight with your husband. You go take care of yourself. Go take care of yourself. Have a cookie. Have some ice cream. Relax. It's okay. Which is very sneaky.
Very sneaky.
Yeah. Super sneaky. And I had not identified her until I started working with you.
Yeah, she was giving you what you actually needed, was nurturing, but not in the way, not through food. It was just like, no, you just need to love yourself through this moment. Yes, you had a rough day, but like, how can you honor yourself? Because really what the food was doing was just actually numbing that, and that today was hard and that it was stressful and there was a lot of pressure. Like it just kind of numbs that and suppresses that. But I specifically remember you saying that. And when you said it in that voice, it was an aha moment for me too. It was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Cause I'm so used to the parts in my head, the voices in my head being super critical and, degrading, just saying the worst things. I never thought of it as like soft and nurturing, but that's exactly what was happening. It's, again, our ego will take on these parts and these roles. And I think that's why it's not weird or wacky to name them. It actually helps take it out of you. So it's not you're the one that's saying that. It's like you can start to see it outside of yourself and look at it. Now you could actually look at it. And that way you were able to see, oh my gosh, she's trying to like love me, comfort me, make it all better with food. We associate food sometimes with that feeling of comfort, with nourishment and being taken care of. And I have a woman that her craving was bread, and it was like her forbidden food was homemade bread. Well, it turns out that when she was craving it was when she was needing to feel taken care of, because guess who she made homemade bread with every Saturday morning? Her grandma, who made her feel loved and taken care of. It wasn't about the bread. It was about the feeling. It was about the feeling. And so when I tell people, like, if you love ice cream, like, I want you to truly love it and enjoy it, not eat it quickly in the car like you're hiding it, like you did something bad. You're going to get grounded if someone catches you eating ice cream. Like, no. And so it's like healing that relationship around food, but it's allowing yourself, I need to feel what I'm supposed to be feeling right now. And then if I still want the ice cream cone, then I'm going to have it and actually enjoy it. But we don't want to serve up anything with an extra side of guilt or shame. And yeah, that conversation, again, being open and vulnerable, for the fact that you shared that story with me, because we're going through her Fiercely Focused assessment and I'm walking through like, okay, like what are some common triggers for you? And I feel like this is where working with me is different, but also for other people to be able to share these things and to be vulnerable. Like no one's judging you. But if you obviously know better, right? So that's why like beating ourselves up with this whole I should know better, it doesn't work. You could have told yourself that a million times. I shouldn't eat this in the car. I know better. And sometimes all the positive self-talk in the world doesn't always fix that. But what was really cool about that moment, and this also to me was, when we talk about like operating our gifts, like that to me kind of affirmed things for me as well, because I will never forget looking at your assessment. You talked about the car thing, and all of a sudden my eyes, it was literally like someone pulled my head and made me stare at it, said, in the car. And all of a sudden you were talking about something else, and I was like, can we go back to the car? Like, I feel like there's something more about the car. Because again, as I don't want to say standard dietitian, like I could give you the standard things as well. It's like, well, okay, well, maybe don't stop at the gas station or try to buy a healthier option. Like that's all BS stuff. Everyone knows they can do those things. There's a reason we're not doing those things. And so that's where I was like, there's something there. Like we need to dig deep into this. And so I asked, like, what is it about the car? Is there anything? And then all of a sudden you're like, no, the best part is you're like, no, I don't really think so, except this one moment. And it was like, you think there's some feelings, some trauma around the car that every time you get in the car by yourself, your parts want to protect you from feeling? Yeah, it makes total sense of why you're using food in the car, 100%.
To your point, you and your gifts, you knew to stop and go back to that. And I'm so grateful that I didn't filter like all of our conversations. I just said what was coming to me. I was like, I don't think so. I don't remember anything having to do with the car when I was a kid. And then I went, except for, there was that one time when my parents were going through a really tough divorce, and we were in hiding from my dad, and my brother and I were in the back seat of the car, crouched down, driving through town in case we saw him. And as I was saying it, I was thinking, well, there was this one thing. And then as I was saying it, I went, oh, huh.
Yeah. Oh, it almost made me tear up because I'm just imagining little Karen and how scared she must have been in that moment. I mean, imagine that. Like those of you listening, I'm putting yourself in that situation. Because again, you've gotten over it. You're an adult now, but you could see how that was still impacting your adult life, but had no idea that it was connected back to this moment, like a traumatic moment in your life where that little girl was scared. The other part of that story that I think is important to mention is share with us what happened to you after that. Like just you physically in the car having this kind of scary moment.
Oh, you mean when I got sick?
You got sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I also had not thought about because I was a kid. I was only 10 years old. But we were in hiding for a brief period, and I got physically sick, really sick. I had forgotten about that. So you just brought it up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I will never forget that, because again, this is where your inner child and your body are now like, it's manifesting physically because you had to suppress these emotions of being terrified, confused, scared, all of these things, and not being able to feel that because you don't even know what's going on in that moment. There's probably no real conversations to help support you in that moment. It's just hunker down. So you're suppressing all of that emotion, and that cry for help is the physical, like, well, we'll try to get their attention some way. We'll just get physically ill so that way they have to like check in, but we're never checking in with the emotional stuff that's going on.
By the time I was 10, little Karen was long gone.
I mean, that's why that was even more triggering, is because now she's hiding out again. But that was your part's way of protecting her. And so you have done the work to open that basement door and say, no more hiding. She does not stay down here in the dark by herself. I am bringing her up in all of her fiery, passionate excitement and all of it, and letting her fully live out loud again. Like, you have brought her back to life. Think about how many years.
Long
So
time.
yeah,
And
you know,
there have been pieces of her that have come out.
yeah.
Walking down the aisle when I got married almost 20 years ago and waving and saying hello to people as I walked down the aisle. In hindsight, it was probably a little over the top. I think about that now. So I mean, she's been there,
Yeah.
but not like today. And part of that's the benefit of age. I mean, I'm going to be 53 next month. So what the heck? I don't have anything to lose. I don't have anybody I need to impress. And this is why I love working with you, because I had not thought of it or articulated it that way before. But yeah, by 10, little Karen was gone.
Yeah, for 40 years.
But not
more than 40
not
years.
anymore.
She was not anymore. Not anymore. I want to pound on this table, but I can't. Not anymore. And this is the energy to take into going back to those health changes. Now, like she's out here living with me, and I want her to feel her best and have energy, do the things she loves. And so now I can show up for myself nutritionally because I feel worthy. And I want to take care of her now. I'm never going to be the one abandoning her. I'm never going to be the one putting her back in the basement and ignoring her needs. That's the energy to take into making these changes. Because when we do it from a place of like, oh, I feel disgusting and I hate myself. No, she's going to sabotage it every time. This she can get on board with. This feels exciting to her. This feels like love to her. You are so ready. You are so ready. And I just, everything about this conversation. Can we just talk for like 6 more hours? I feel like we're going to need like part 1 with Karen and part 2 with little Karen. Working with you has truly been a gift. And there's no doubt this has absolutely been a God thing. And I thank you so much for the gift in helping me tap into mine and how it works when you're connecting with someone. Like, you helped me step into mine too. So this is mutual of like just full on love and gratitude, because our conversations, it helped me like, oh, I am getting to this stuff. I am helping connect these dots, and like, look at the shifts she just had. Like, but it was us working together. It wasn't me using my magic spells on you. Like, it was us working together. And that was so powerful. And I think that's just, again, you had every reason to not work with me. Like, I've done all this stuff before, but like, you listened, your inner child was like, you work with Tami. You're going to stay working with Tami until you heal this stuff. And you did.
All of us have inner child stuff. I actually personally think everybody's got trauma. Your definition of trauma and mine might be different, and it might look different. Everybody's got it. I'm trying to accept the fact that my 14-year-old, no matter how perfect a mom I am, she's going to have it too.
Yep.
All of us have got inner child stuff to work on. And if that term feels unpalatable, which it did to me at once upon a time, it's just childhood stuff, family of origin stuff, just stuff.
Yeah.
And we can work through it on our own. We can work through it with others, but working through it with you, you've asked the right questions to help me have those whoa moments that I needed, that I was not getting elsewhere.
Oh.
So thank you.
Well, and thank you for trusting me, because this is a really vulnerable space, and you showed up. You showed up. So for those of you listening, again, keep your eye out for this woman, because she's going to be out there sometime soon. But if you ever want to dive into your story and hopefully, start validating it, start connecting some of those dots, I'm a discovery call away. Or we have our inner child workshops where, Karen did Nutrition for the Soul, which was a 12-week program. And I've kind of broken that apart into this 3-part inner child play shop series, because I want to allow people to dip their toes into it, because again, so many of us aren't even aware. And so I wanted to offer something like that for people to just like, gosh, do I have inner child wounds? And then there's always the opportunity to dive deeper like Karen did, and to really give yourself that time and space. But Oh, but just being here, again, your inner child is already feeling seen and heard and loved by you. So thank you so much for tuning in. And Karen and little Karen, just all my love. And I cannot wait to see you in person again sometime soon, actually very soon. So whoop, whoop. All right, we are signing off. Again, thank you so much. And remember to do something for you and your inner child today.
Tami Talks Unscripted Healing is produced by Mortarbox Media. Video, audio, and editing by me, Duke Adams. To learn how we can bring your podcast idea to life, or how we can make your current show even better, visit mortarboxmedia.com.